Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello dear students, welcome to another lecture. In today's class, we are going to begin the autobiographical work, which is the Diary of Anne Frank. As you all know, this autobiographical work holds 15 marks in total in your examination. So automatically we understand that this is very important. What we are going to read is an edited version of the whole novel or the whole diary that was written by Anne Frank. So we shall read only a small portion of the same, which is written in very simple language, making it easier for you all to understand. So before I tell you about, or rather we start reading this autobiography, Anne Frank, as we all know, was a young girl who was hiding with her family in one building during the attack by Hitler. So the Nazi attack, the term Holocaust has been used over here. So there was a Nazi attack which took place, because of which Anne Frank along with her family took to hiding in the year 1942. So they hid themselves in the office building of their father. In that duration, Anne Frank started writing this diary which she got as a birthday present. In those days, she thought and she found this diary to be her best friend, because she could pour all her feelings onto those pages. Now, unfortunately, their family was, caught in the year 1945, sent to the camp, and Anne Frank died thereafter. It was only the father of Anne Frank who survived. And it was Anne Frank's father who published, who sent to publish this diary of hers as a proper, publication book, because he wanted the world to see how wonderfully and how beautifully his daughter had portrayed her feelings, her emotions, and moreover the entire situation, the entire circumstance that they went through in that duration. So what we are going to read is the account that was written by Anne Frank in her diary. So let us start reading. Okay, so yes. So the World War II was a very dark period in the history of the world. Adolf Hitler rose to power as the Chancellor of Germany in 1933 and was intent on ridding Europe of Jewish people. He established many anti-Jewish laws which made life harsh and dangerous for Jews in Germany. So World War II was a very dark, it was a very dramatic, it was a very serious, it was a very dangerous, it was a very sad, period in the history of the world. Adolf Hitler rose to power. So he got power, he became very powerful in that duration as he became the Chancellor of the Germany. Chancellor is the position to which he rose in the year 1933. And after he became the Chancellor, after he got the power, he was very intent. Intent means he was very keen. He was very eager of ridding Europe of Jewish people. Ridding means to get rid of somebody, means to be away from somebody, to be able to maintain, a lot of distance with somebody. So that is ridding. So Adolf Hitler basically wanted that Europe should be free from all the Jewish people. This is what Adolf Hitler wanted. He established many anti-Jewish laws. So there were a lot of laws that he started, anti-Jewish, that means against the Jews. which made life very harsh, very tough and very dangerous for the people who were Jews and were living in Germany. Anne Frank and her family, who had considered Germany their home for centuries, were forced to leave and start a new life in Netherlands, Holland. The Franks settled into their new life comfortably. They felt free again and safe again. But this peace was to last them only a few more years. So Anne Frank and her family, they were also Jews. So since Adolf Hitler wanted, all the Jews from Germany to be sent away, so these people, that is the Franks, the family of Anne Frank, they who were settled in Germany for a very long time and they considered Germany to be their home, they were forced to leave that place and start a new life in Netherlands. So they were forced to leave Germany because they were Jews and they moved to Netherlands and there they started a new life. The Franks settled into their new life comfortably. So it was a very comfortable thing for them. They were able to comfortably settle in their new lives. They felt free, they felt safe. But this peace, this entire situation, this entire environment in which they were living and they were feeling so free and liberal was only going to last for few more years. So their happiness was very short-lived. In 1940, Hitler attacked the Netherlands and his Nazi party took control of the country. The Franks knew they were no longer safe. Imprisonment and death would become their reality soon if they did not act fast. They had to escape. So 1940, Hitler attacked Netherlands also and his party, his Nazis, as I told you. So his Nazi party, they very soon gained control over the entire country. So they took over Netherlands also. And the Franks, the moment this movement shifted from Germany to Netherlands, they realized that they were not safe here as well. Imprisonment and death. They knew that if they did not act fast, that is, if they did not think of a way to protect themselves, to prevent themselves, to escape from this condition, they will either be imprisoned, that is, they will be put behind the bars, they will be put in the jails, or they are going to face death, they will die. They had to escape. So they decided they had to just run away from this situation at any cost. The Nazis had closed the way in and out of the country. So the Franks decided to hide in a secret flat in Mr. Frank's office building in Amsterdam. In 1942, the Franks shifted into their hiding place, the secret annex. So the Nazis had closed the way in and out of the country. So the Nazis had controlled the country, Netherlands, in such a way that neither could anybody enter the country nor escape. So in and out means there was no movement inside and outside the country. So the Franks decided that they are going to shift to a secret flat which was there in Mr. Frank's office building, which was situated in Amsterdam. So in 1942, the entire family shifted to their hiding place, this place where they were going to hide for 3 years, and they named it as the secret annex. So this place where they were hiding were called secret annex. Life in hiding was fraught with many difficulties. Cut off from the outside world, the residents of the secret annex battled boredom, hunger, and petty conflicts with each other. The very real fear of being discovered and arrested hung over each of them constantly. So, life in hiding was fraught with many difficulties. Means the place where they were hiding, they were surrounded by a lot of problems. They were fighting with a lot of problems throughout the day. They were cut off from the outside world. Obviously, they were hiding. So that means they did not have any contact with the outside world. And therefore, the residents of the secret annex, the people who lived in that hiding place, they battled. They were suffering from boredom. They were suffering from hunger and petty conflicts, small problems, fights with each other. The very real fear of being discovered and arrested hung over each of them constantly. And the only problem that they were surrounded by was the fear that they can be arrested, that they can be caught any moment. And this fear hung over each of them constantly. That means, constantly means all the time they were surrounded by this fear, be it day or night, sleeping, eating, talking, anything while they were doing, this fear always remained with them. Sensitive and intelligent 13-year-old Anne Frank started recording her daily experiences, thoughts and emotions in a diary. It was the closest friend she had in the 2 years she spent in hiding. As she wrote and realized she wanted to become an author when she grew up, her experiences in hiding would make for a great novel. So, Anne Frank, who's been described as a very sensitive and a very intelligent girl who was 13 years old at that time, she started recording her daily experiences. So she started writing her diary. And what did she write in her diary? She wrote all the things that she would do on a regular basis, her thoughts, what was going on in her mind, her emotions, her feelings in that diary. It was the closest friend she had in the 2 years, obviously. So she had been in this hiding place for 2 years, and after 2 years of hiding, she started writing a diary. And this diary, therefore, was no less than her best friend. And when Anne was writing, she realized at that time that she wanted to be an author when she grows up. And her experiences that she was going to write in that diary would certainly make a good novel. She thought that people would be interested to read about it. It is going to be a good selling novel. Sadly, Anne did not live to see her dream come true. In 1944, when Anne was 15, someone betrayed the Franks and they were all arrested. Anne Frank died in 1945 in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. So, unfortunately, Anne Frank did not live to see her dream come true. Because in 1944, when Anne Frank turned 15, that is 2 years from then, somebody betrayed the Franks. Cheated. Somebody close to them who knew about their hiding place, told about it, and they were all arrested. And Anne Frank, she died in 1945 in a concentration camp which was situated in Bergen-Belsen. Otto Frank, who was Anne Frank's father, was the only one to survive the war. He published her diary in 1947. He wanted the world to know and love Anne as an ordinary girl living in extraordinary circumstances. So how did this diary get published? Because of her father, whose name was Otto Frank. So Otto Frank was the only surviving member of the Frank family. And after the war ended, In 1947, he published this diary of Anne Frank. And the reason why he did so was because he wanted everybody to read about Anne Frank. They wanted everybody to know that Anne Frank was just an ordinary girl, but she was living in an extraordinary circumstance. The way she had survived and the way she had lived were all very extraordinary. So, introduction, as I told you, is about Anne Frank and her family and how and why did they go to the hiding place. Let us move ahead. Okay. So, World War II was the most destructive war in history. More than 50 nations took part in the war. On one side were the Axis powers, including Germany, Italy and Japan. On the other side were the Allies. They included Britain, France, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the Soviet Union, China and the United States of America. So the Second World War was the most destructive, it was a war that caused the maximum destruction in history. There were more than 50 nations that took part in that war. So on one side of the war were the Axis powers, the powerful countries such as Germany, Italy and Japan. And on the other side were their allies who were opposite to them, who were fighting with them. So Germany, Italy and Japan were fighting with nations which included Britain, France, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Soviet Union, China and the USA. It is said that World War II was caused by the Treaty of Versailles and the German people's resentment towards the League of Nations, an organization established in 1919 to prevent wars and promote international cooperation and peace. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919 to ensure peace in Europe following World War I. As one of its conditions, the treaty stated that Germany would pay for damages caused by the war and that Germany could only have a small army with no air force, submarines or tanks. So what was the reason for the Second World War? Now it is believed, it is said that the reason for World War II was the Treaty of Versailles and the resentment, the disappointment, or I can say the negative attitude of the Germans towards that treaty. They did not want that treaty to fall into place. So resentment towards the League of Nations. So it was because of the Treaty of Versailles and the hatred of the Germans towards the League of Nations. Now what is the League of Nations? It is an organization which was formed in 1919 and the basic aim of this organization was to prevent war and to promote peace across the world. Now the Treaty of Versailles, this treaty was signed in 1919 in order to ensure peace in Europe following World War I. So after the World War I came to an end, this treaty was signed so that each country would take a pledge that they are going to be very peaceful and there would be no other war that will take place. The only one condition, not the only one, but one of the conditions of that Treaty of Versailles was that Germany was going to pay for whatever damages had occurred because of the World War I. Also, you can say as a punishment or as an after effect of the World War I, the treaty stated that the Germans will only have a small army. Okay, their army cannot be big in size, so they were supposed to have a small army with no air force, no submarines will be given to them and no tanks will be given to them either. Germany suffered many economic hardships after World War I. Adolf Hitler was able to convince the German people to give him the power to improve conditions in Germany and restore country's strength and dignity. He became the leader of the National Socialist Party or Nazi Party, which came to power in 1933. So, after World War I, there was a lot of economic hardship that the Germans faced. Economic hardships, a lot of problems, a lot of money-related problems that Germany faced. So, Adolf Hitler, he convinced all the people of Germany to elect him, to choose him so that he will have the power. And he promised them that he will return the strength and the dignity, the strength, the power that the country has lost, as well as the respect that the country has lost. He became the leader of the National Socialist Party, which is also known as the Nazi Party, which came to power in 1933. Hitler built up the German army and their weapons. On 1st September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. When that happened, Britain and France declared war on Germany. They wanted to help Poland after it was invaded, but they were too late. By the summer of 1940, Germany conquered Holland, Belgium, France, Denmark and Norway. So, Hitler built up his German army and he used all the weapons that they had. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Attacked Poland. Okay, they entered into Poland illegally or with the aim of conquering it, with the aim of ruling over it. When this happened, when Germany invaded over Poland, Britain and France, they declared war on Germany so that this invasion can be stopped. But they were too late. Why? Because by the summer of 1940, that is just 6 months from Germans' invasion on Poland, Germany was able to conquer not only Poland but Holland, Belgium, France, Denmark and Norway. In July 1940, German planes started bombing British coastal towns, defences and ships in the English Channel in order to gain control over the skies in the south of England. In mid-September 1940, after many battles, Germany postponed their planned land invasion of Britain as the Royal Air Force had effectively fought off the German Luftwaffe. So, in July 1940, the German planes, they started bombing the coastal regions of Britain. So, the German planes, they entered the British region and they started throwing bombs on the coastal areas, the areas near the sea. And the ships, they started attacking so that they could get a control over the skies of the south of England. As we read, the Treaty of Versailles had actually prevented them, had banned them from having or, of possessing any air force. But the Germans wanted that and therefore they planned this attack. They threw bombs on the coastal regions and obviously they wanted to get a control over the skies in the south of England. In mid-September 1940, after many battles, Germany postponed their planned land invasion. So what happened in 1940, mid-September? Germany had initially planned a land invasion of Britain. That is, they had thought that on land only, that is, with the help of its normal army, they are going to enter Britain and conquer over it. But they had to postpone that, they had to shift that to future, as the Royal Air Force had effectively fought off the German Luftwaffe. So, why did they postpone this idea? Because the Royal Air Force had already fought off the German Luftwaffe. So, Germans were fought off. So, the Royal Air Force means the Air Force of Britain had successfully fought with the airplanes or the Air Force of Germany. Commonwealth nations such as Canada and Australia helped Britain. In 1941, Germany attacked the Soviet Union, that is Russia and America too, who redoubled its efforts after Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. So, Commonwealth nations at that time, such as Canada and Australia, they wanted to help Britain in case of this invasion. But in 1941, Germany had attacked Russia, which was known as the Soviet Union, and America as well, who redoubled its efforts after Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Who? That means the Americans. After they were attacked by the Germans, they redoubled their efforts. They redoubled whatever resources were available to them. Why? Because Japan had also attacked the navy, the naval base of Pearl Harbor at Hawaii. So, they had also attacked the naval base of Britain at Pearl Harbor, which is located in Hawaii. So, there was a war that had been initiated. In 1943, the Allies were winning. Allies, who were the Allies as we had just read? It was Germany, Holland, France, Belgium, Norway. All these were the Allies, the opposite parties. So, in 1943, the Allies were at a stronger position and were at a winning position as well. In 1944, a huge Allied army crossed from Britain to free France. Then Allied armies invaded Germany. By 1945, the war in Europe was over. But what happened? The Britons proved to be more powerful. Why? In 1944, there was a huge army that was set by Britain, sent to France in order to free them. After freeing France, that army invaded, that army attacked Germany. And by May 1945, the war that was taking place in Europe came to an end. Elsewhere, the war went on until August 1945. There was fierce fighting in the Pacific Islands and the fierce naval battles at sea. Finally, the Allies dropped atomic bombs on two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The damage was so terrible that Japan surrendered and World War II came to an end. So, in the other places, so in Europe that war was over, but in the other places it still continued till August 1945. There was a fierce fighting, so there was actually a very dangerous fight that took place in the Pacific Islands and the fierce naval battles at the sea. So on the islands and with the navy also, there was a very dangerous fight that took place. Finally, the Allies dropped atomic bombs on two Japanese cities. So, these people, the Allied armies that were sent from Britain, they dropped two bombs at Japan, two cities of Japan, namely Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as we have read about. The damage of these bombs was so bad, it was so terrible that Japan surrendered, that they accepted their defeat, they surrendered, and the World War II came to an end. So my dear students, so far we've read the introduction part of this chapter as well as the story behind the occurrence of World War II and its effect. I'm going to pause here and we'll see you all now in the next lecture where I will continue with the third part of this autobiography. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you.